I'm delighted to moderate a fireside chat here this evening on a topic that really is relevant probably to every single one of you here tonight, that of talent acquisition as the GCC positions itself as a hub for shipping and increasingly so trading. And I'm doubly delighted, sorry to be using that word so much today, to be joined here by two pioneering women in the field of talent acquisition. And I'm now like to invite them and welcome them to join me up here on the stage. Zoe Upson, who is Director of Freight and Commodity Talent and the founder of Women Together. And Victoria Todd, Regional Director and Head of the region of MENA for HSC Group. Good evening, ladies, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you with us. Zoe, let me start with you, and both of you, just as an introduction. We have seen, obviously, the shipping and trading sectors grow in the region, and acquiring talent is obviously a big challenge globally, but that has had a real run in the last few years into the GCC. So Zoe, I mean, where do you see, we know what's happened so far. Many company heads here tonight, many CEOs, they know what the game is in terms of acquiring that talent. But do you see this sort of very positive trajectory continuing as we look at the next 5 years? And if so, why? And if not, why not? What challenges do you see?
Yes, absolutely. And first of all, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It really is an honor. And I have to say, I'm incredibly bullish for the future. The next 5 years are going to be incredibly exciting as we continue to grow. Dubai population last year was 3.6 million. We're going to estimate that to be getting to 5 million. And, huge growth, a lot of people continuously relocating. My phone goes off all the time. Zoe, we want to set up an entity here. How do we do it? Zoe, I want to relocate to the Middle East. How do I do it? Weekly, my phone is going off. And, I think success here, and particularly in Dubai to become the next trading hub, is we have to get on par with Geneva, with Singapore and London. Now, I am from the UK, but I think we are going to absolutely outrun London in the next 5 years. We are stealing a lot of talent from there. Geneva, I think, will always remain strong with the trading houses. And Singapore, of course, it's got a fantastic expat community, safe, good tax. So I think that's going to be strong. We do going to have some risks, and we can maybe go into a bit more detail on that. We need to get a good balanced ecosystem, so right across the board, ops, compliance, support staff. We've got a lot of front of house already here, but now we need the backside to come through and really support that. And we are looking at some risks, okay? So cost of living, that's changed dramatically in the last few years. Dubai has jumped 10 places in cost of living in cities. So that's something that I think we've got to be a little bit cautious of and wary of when attracting talent. Lack of diversity. Everybody I speak to and everybody I connect with wants inclusive and diverse workspaces. There's the funding for it. We've just got to make sure we actually action it and move forward with that. And
okay, Zoe, all right. We'll get to a lot. That's a lot to take in. No, that's fantastic, and we'll delve into that. Victoria, welcome again. Let's talk numbers and compensation. I mean, Zoe was mentioning inflation, cost of living. Is the region currently competitive in terms of offering the salaries people need, and more importantly, can it keep up when, as you see the cost of living go up, and how, what is making it competitive against traditional trading centers like Geneva and Singapore, for example?
Thank you again for having me. I think compensation is a highly complex and nuanced topic, and I think if we generalize, it really wouldn't be doing it justice. So I think if we focus first on the sort of core trading hubs that we see in the region, so Abu Dhabi and Dubai, We also have to factor in the market conditions in this discussion. The market conditions. We've come off the back of really strong trading years, and the market is now normalized. So this year, trading results haven't been as strong, and we are seeing that sort of filter. Sort of companies are right-sizing. So there is a lot of growth, but we also have to factor in that actually, from my perspective, for some roles, the market's actually becoming quite long on talent, which means that hiring power is actually going back to the companies. So there's a disconnect.
So which particular areas would you say are long on talent? Can you identify where that might be?
Yeah, so interestingly, actually, front office. So some trading hires, I would say. The areas that are in demand are risk, compliance, legal, analytics, derivatives trading. But yeah,
okay, I mean, just on that point of compliance and the soft side, really, of the talent acquisition, as you said, as the trading gets more sophisticated, I suppose, also in the region, that does directly sort of filter through to compliance, to sort of, I suppose, legal talent that's needed for that. Do we have that in the region? Do we have enough of it? Or, again, do we have to pull that in?
Yeah, I think what I'm finding quite interesting is when you look at the moves this year, there's actually been a huge uptick in intra-region moves. So what's happening is, what's happened is, over the past few years, the region has built a really strong talent pool, and we continue to do so. So companies are actually looking into the region first, rather than saying, can you map the markets in Singapore and London? So yeah, we're actually, on the candidate side, people want 40, 50% uplifts because of the cost of living, but we're not actually seeing companies bend to that, because ultimately, okay, I speak to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, but it's not a hardship posting. People want to come here, and companies are really playing into that when it comes to compensation.
No, absolutely. It's a catch-up, isn't it, scenario? Zoe, I mean, the other element that's come into the Gulf is tax. This was a tax-free zone. Corporate tax is now applicable in the UAE. It started last year, I believe, or depending on the financial year. In your area of advice, has that put off companies from hiring? Has that been a very big element in the cost of consideration of how they offer to attract talent? What impact has tax had?
No, not at the moment. I think it's something that we're considering and people are looking into, absolutely. But as it stands, I think the priority is to get themselves footing in the Middle East. And I know Victoria was saying that, front of house roles have been slowing. I've seen slightly different. The number of brokers that are coming in is astronomical. 1,500 from last year up until 2027, we forecast are going to be coming to the entity. So, and they are driving it, and they're the big money makers. So I think companies are, okay, we'll take the 9%.
Okay. Yeah, Victoria, you wanted to say that?
I should say, if I'm not mistaken,
put your mic
yeah, sorry. If I'm not mistaken, I think there has been a change in that. I think that for qualifying companies in free zones and qualifying commodities, actually there has been a reduction in that corporate tax, if I'm not mistaken. It was a really recent change. So actually, I think that goes to show that kind of how strong the region is on building a trading hub. So yeah, I think there has been a change where there has been a reduction in that really, really recently.
Okay, so I mean so I suppose you're saying is companies have adjusted to that. I mean, they had time to prepare for it, but also it's quite competitive still with other zones, I suppose, or other regions. Let's touch on something a bit lighter, not to delve too much into it, but does I put this to both of you. Geopolitically, the region is very stable, obviously, but there's activity going on, and we don't see oil being disrupted, we don't see tankers being disrupted, etc. But have you sensed any nervousness from the companies that you advise and that you recruit on behalf of in terms of any geopolitical hesitation at the current moment? And and then we have the oil price as well, which has dampened a bit. So those elements, have they played into sentiment for hiring?
Yes, that obviously is something that companies are looking into and being incredibly mindful of. But in terms of slowing momentum, slowing attraction into the region, no. A lot of people I deal with are shifting from London over to the Middle East, and they feel incredibly safe. Even though potentially you're much closer to a war zone, you're almost safer here. And I think for families, and particularly expats with their families, I feel that actually this is a safer choice. And disruption with oil prices, it sounds bad to say, but my market often invites that, is with volatility, traders, brokers, it's not always a negative.
Okay, Victoria, I mean, just as we wrap up, we've talked about the UAE, and we're focusing obviously on the UAE. We're in Fujairah tonight, which is a growing hub for trading and shipping. What other countries in the Gulf would you identify may follow the sort of momentum that we've seen here for hiring into trading, into shipping? I mean, obviously Saudi Arabia is a huge actor on the scene, but are there any elements that it may follow in the footsteps of the UAE from that perspective of talent hiring into the kingdom?
Yeah, look, I think Saudi for sure, Oman, and yeah, we do see them coming online from a trading perspective. But what they are really going to have to think about is the compensation piece. How are they going to attract talent? How are they going to compete with Dubai and Abu Dhabi for that real core trading talent? And it always comes back to compensation. If you get the compensation right from the beginning, you'll be able to attract, the talent that you need.
Okay, and Zoe, just going back to you to close up for us, I don't know if you can comment on this, but again, as we see hiring increase across the Gulf, you mentioned Oman, you mentioned Saudi, Omanization, Emiratization, Saudization, do you come across that aspect of things in terms of the companies looking to hire, having to take on 10% of national population? Again, the sort of whole knowledge training, indigenous training, as companies come in to invest here. Is that something that's considered, or is that an open book?
If you're talking about the other regions, the phone calls are coming in and the conversations that we had. So I think Qatar has a huge, huge budget, and they're willing to invest in the young generation, training, locals. The funding's there, and they want it. They want to be the next big hub. And same again with Saudi. I've had conversations today. Please, can you come out to Saudi? The phone calls I get are actually more primarily from Saudi on inclusion and diversity, because they want to attract talent, and that's a key issue I think that maybe is for them that they need assistance with. So from my angle, that's what I'm seeing in terms of investment. But my phone goes mainly off for the expat talent, I would say.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much. A round of applause, please, to Victoria, Todd, and Zoe Upson. Thank you very much for joining me, and enjoy the remainder of the evening. Thank you, ladies.